So here is the transformer emerging from its jar. I am just going to sort of put it in this little stainless thing here. Oh, we've got lots of vileness that has come off now. That's good news. Now the trick we need to perform here is to remove this coil from here, unsolder that from there. Right, bit of an old toothbrush. Let's give it a scrub. Right, thinking about something to sort of hold everything together. This is my PCB vise, and I've just popped the jaws off. Just a little circlip, one either end. And yeah, there we go. That's something I can hold it in. So that's good. And then I found a piece of 5mm diameter aluminium rod that seems to want to fit in there, so that's good. And then I thought, all right, I need a former to hold the transformer bobbin steady, so I've 3D printed that. You can see his hole down it. I have created a coil counting piece of kit. I have just exposed the first winding. Sort of seems to want to feed into the middle there. Let's just see if we can't peel a bit more of this off. The voting is in. 65 turns was on the last one, and then roughly 70 turns per layer there. I need to order up some of that and some of that.
And now it's time for the latest exciting episode of Doz's Television Workshop.
Hello and welcome back to Doz's Television Workshop, where today we're going to be carrying on with the rewind of our Pye 405 line TV line output transformer, or flyback if you're across the pond. You'll notice on the bench I've got the coil counting machine in bits again. Delighted with the performance of this, but I think for the purposes of rewinding and counting the coils going back on, I need a few modifications. So I've removed the original sort of spool holder there, and I've been out and I've bought a piece of new piece of rod that's considerably longer. Interestingly enough, this time it was cheaper to buy a stainless steel rod than it was to buy aluminium. Doesn't bother me. I've 3D printed a longer spool holder. I want some more room to be able to work to sort of manipulate the coil as it goes on. So I thought, well, if I make this a bit bigger, that would be a bonus. And I've also 3D printed a new handle for the end. Didn't use the handle on the unwinder, but I've sort of made this two-piece one so we can sort of count turns on. So yeah, the Scientific Wire Company have duly delivered 2 spools of wire, hopefully in the right dimensions. I'm going to measure that just to make sure. So yeah, first things first, I need to get this stuff assembled. So yeah, I can't find my hammer anywhere. I've got 2 hammers in the workshop normally. I can find neither of them, and I've had a good clear up. That's probably why I can't find them. But I've actually improved the 3D printer tolerancing, so I'm hoping this will just tap together quite easily. Or maybe I just use a heavy and inappropriate crimping tool to smack it together like I did last time. Whew. Worked up a bit of a sweat there, but that's got that in the right place. So that's got to go on there. That then will go through that end. Make sure I've got enough on this end just to, yeah, that's perfect. Excellent. Now I've got to put the paddles back on. So that one wants to be in the leading edge position that way. That one wants to be, does it actually make any difference? Don't think it does. Let's try and get it the same as the original. That way we know we're good. Right, let's pop that on there. Tighten that on there. Tighten that back on there. Just going to drill the handle out and try and tap that on that end. Okay. Now to get the sensors realigned. Brilliant. Okay, so let me get rid of some of these spurious tools. Okay, that's where the spool's going to go on. We may as well put that in now. I may wish to tighten that up slightly. It's not a snug fit on there, but I did think I could just put a bit of Kapton tape or something on there if I need to stop it moving around. There may be an advantage to it moving around, which is why I haven't sort of gone that route yet. But right. Yeah. Okay, now obviously I'm going to need something to hold my spool of wire. I don't want to be sort of handling it and uncoiling it and maybe getting a twist in it, because if I get a kink in it, that'll be bad. So, quite simply, I went out and I bought another one of these. So I'm just going to use the same thing now, just to make another holder up out of. No counting electronics or anything this time, I'm not interested. So all I want to do is make another one of these up just to hold the spool of wire. Got another piece of rod, but this time I've also bought some of these little sort of flange top hat things. The idea is I'm going to put those on here and use them to maybe clamp the wire, because if I want a bit of tension on it, which I probably do, that may be a solution. There we go. That's the spool holder. Right, it's coming on, isn't it? This is good news. Now, if you're wondering why I haven't, developed some marvellous system of motorization for this, is because I don't think I'm going to have that level of control over it. I think that could all go horribly wrong, so I'm not going to do that. Okay, just see the spool holder there. I removed the spring actually from one of the jaws and used that to put a bit of tension on the spool. That's now running quite well. I think I'm quite happy with that. I've got a selection of different widths of Kapton tape here to make my insulation with. I made a quick mod to the coil counter because it was bouncing. I thought, how on earth is it doing that? And it's just where this aluminium tape isn't quite so good. So what I've done here is I've moved the paddles 180 degrees apart. So I'm just going to power that up and set it to where the first count has just occurred. And then I'm going to move, and then I'm going to reset it again. So that's 1. So that's where it's about to reset. So that should be 2. Yeah. So that is our 0 face. So I'm just going to 0 there. I'm going to get my wire. I am so nervous about doing this. And for a person of having a tremor like I do, I am somewhat concerned. That tension may be a little much, but we can turn that down. And I'm going to come in there on that edge, and according to my diagram I need 65 turns. Obviously we're working up the list that way, so I need 65 turns. Goes on the edge there, it's that one there. So I think the idea there is I'll put a bit of tape on that, cut this tail off and tape it straight to the plastic. Nerve-wracking. Right, I've got a bit of tape there. There is a kink in this from where it was wound back on itself. So I'm just going to tape that. It's at the other end, you fool. I'm just going to tape that there. I need plenty to make my lead out wire with anyway. I'm just going to butt that up against there. And that is where my winding is going to start. So I need a bit of narrow capped on. I've also got this stuff, by the way, which is fiberglass impregnated. But I'm not quite sure that's going to be of much use, really. That's the one I want, really. So I'm just going to put a lap round there to hold the winding at the start of the coil. In fact, let's prepare myself with other things I think I may need. I have super glue because I think that's going to be handy. I did watch a guy the other day, though he didn't show the rewinding process. He showed about how he glued each end of the winding on each layer to sort of hold it in place before he insulated it and then moved on, which I think is probably a good idea. Oh, it's all coming undone already. This is what I'm afraid of. Right, I need to plug the coil winder in to reset it. Just so I don't make a mistake. Right, we're on 0. We're actually on 1 already, so I've got to subtract 1 from my number. Joy. Because I wound it the wrong way. I want to avoid is nicking the wire, because obviously if we scratch those wires and damage the insulation, we're in a world of pain. Right. I'm just going to reset that again because we need 65 more on there now. Okay. Right. That is 1 turn. Wow, this is working quite well. He said having done 4 turns. Right, well that's 64 and a half turns, and I'm going to put my Kapton in underneath that wire, wind one on, and then start counting the next 70 turns back the other way. Really pleased with how that's gone. The tension on the wire is perfection, to be honest. So yeah, very pleased about that. I may just want to unwind back to there, because I believe that's our 64th turn starting there, and just lock that in position there and put my dab of super glue on. Yeah, just on that winding there. So that is 64, so I've got another turn on this layer effectively, but it'll be sandwiched in amongst the insulation, and then I can move on to the next layer, which is 70 turns, and I am pleased as punch with that. I think that's come out rather well. So I'm just going to put a dab of super glue on there. A dab on the other end. Not the other end can go anywhere now. I'm just going to have to smooth that in a bit, because that's a gob. I'm not sure I want that much on there. Let me get a bit of something. Excellent. Okay. I'm not going to activate it because it makes it blister up. I'm going to stop there, give that 10 minutes to have a set, have a cup of tea because I'm stressed, and then insulate and on with the next layer. Right, the super glue's gone off, and I've got this wider Kapton which is about the same width as my spool. It's going to leave a bit hanging out the end, to be honest, but I can trim that down when I've finished the whole assembly, is my plan. Do obviously need to be careful not to trim off the wires on the end of the windings, because that would be bad. Right, not a very nice edge there to work with, but it's what we've got. So I need to go one layer and then trim this off. So what I'm going to do, I'll peel a bit back, somehow stick it to this here, and then carry on winding. Is my plan. Right, let's see how that works out for me. So we just want one turn. The wire's working its way out a bit there. Not so keen on that. There we go. There we are. And that is where our new winding will now start. Oh, hell. So I just need to trim that off, again, without scratching that wire at all. It don't matter if I use more Kapton than I should do. try and get it as smooth as possible. Yeah, not ideal maybe, but well, there we go. Okay, I need to zero the counter, and now we need 70 new turns in that direction. Right, that is 1. My counter is reading 2, so I need to make sure I've got 1 less than I think I've got. This is actually quite difficult to see where the previous wire is over the Kapton tape and the winding underneath. I can just catch it in the light as it comes round, so I think I'm good. I'm just going to angle that slightly there. Right, we are at 66 turns and I'm just coming up to the end of the first winding, which means I'm going to be going over a sort of hump downwards. It's not ideal, is it? But what have I got to get to? 70, which is 70 on here, which is actually 69, then a layer of tape. So yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. This bit could be challenging. That is 70 turns. Whew, right, another little squib of super glue, I think. Right, let's just let that set for a minute and then on with the next layer. Oh god, that's better. That's layer 3. that is completion of the first winding. My goodness. So I'm just going to put a spot of super glue somewhere down this side, because this wire needs to come out sort of pointing towards the middle of the former. Right, let's give that a good few minutes to set and snip the wire, make the ending. Wow, it's coming together. Right, well, I just stopped for a spot of lunch. I am going to cut the wire. I'm going to take it round 90 degrees there. I'm going to put a layer of insulation around this side and then insulate 2 or 3 times over this winding, because we could have, in fact we will have, probably a considerable voltage between this winding and the next. So that's what I'm just going to do. Quite a step there that I'm going to try and eradicate if it's all possible. Oh no, I've just snapped my handle off. What I'm trying to achieve here is sort of more even surface for the next winding to go on, because I think I'm going to struggle, because obviously the wire is thinner, and I think it could maybe be more prone to a bit of more bunching or whatever. So I want to give it every chance not to want to bunch up. Just cut the bobbin, you can see I've just overlapped in there, so I'm just going to trim that off, probably with the cutters actually. There we go. Happy with that. Stick them down so they're not in the way. That's it. I've got to change out the wire reel and then go for round 2. Right, enforced break because I had to empty the memory cards because we filled those up yet again. There's a lot of footage in this one. I've mounted the 0.2mm wire on the spool holder, and next thing to do is to get that in a good position over here. I've wrapped a bit of tape around there already, so we'll just give this a couple of laps just to hold it in place. I'm wrapping the tape the wrong way, aren't I? Oh, it's going to be awkward. So this first layer, which is layer 9, or layer 1 of 9 maybe, it's layer 9 when I took it off, is 100 turns. Eyes down for 100 turns then. Need the magnifying glasses on again. Right, 100 turns, here we come. $97, 100. That's yeah, that's something, that is. So stick that down. Just going to zero the counter. Come back, we've got to have 120. So yeah. I'm actually going to stick that out at an angle like that, because I'm going to want that extra bobbin space. I don't think that's ideal, but it's what we've got. Right, I'm just going to leave that to set, insulate, and then we've got 120 or 120 turn windings. Right.
Many unbearable hours later.
Right, this is the last 60 turns. What a job. What a job. I'm not sure I'd ever want to attempt it again, to be honest, so fingers crossed I've got this right. At the end of the previous row I did lose a couple of winds off one end, but I think I've managed to save the day. So yeah, let's just put in another turn of insulation here. This is the sort of critical bit, is to get the insulation flat over the main bobbin, over the sort of main winding part. That's one layer. See, we're getting a ruck there. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it, but it is what it is. It's all skew whiff on this end this time. I'm not worried about it because I've only got 60 turns to put on. That's where we'll cut our tape. There we go. And now just wind on the 60 turns. $58, $59, $60. There we go. That is that complete. I'm just going to stick a dab of super glue on the end of my winding there. My super glue lid now is almost permanently glued in place. I'm going to add 2 more layers of insulation over the top of it and then trim it to get rid of the excess insulation, being careful not to trim the windings. They do sort of vary a bit. Hopefully I haven't made the bobbin too long to fit back on the transformer. Right, I'm just going to wait for that glue to go off and then we're going to call this wound. Okay, of course I'm actually not done with the winding because I can't put the heater winding on yet. I've just put a piece of Kapton sort of horizontally across there. I'm going to cut the wire and then we're just going to put a loop in that so we know where it is. Just make a loop, tuck it round back on itself. I'm doing that all wrong, aren't I? Let's just leave it there. I'll deal with that later. Right, okay, now we do need to add a good layer of insulation onto here because the heater winding, despite the fact it's only going to make a few volts, it will be elevated by the EHT, so it'll have about 6 kV on it or something. So I do want to insulate what remains of our bobbin rather well. So yeah, I'm just going to get on with wrapping some of this stuff around it several times, I reckon. Calling that. Wow, there it is. What a task. Right, let's just extract it. Actually see if the EHT bobbin will still fit under there. Over there, sorry. What an amazing thing. I don't think I've exceeded the length of my bobbin, which I was concerned about. So I could just trim that back, so that's good. So I'm just going to get the EHT winding. I'm imagining that this will be fine because we've used modern insulation here. We're not just relying on tissue paper. And yeah, of course it fits. It's loose as hell, so that's fine. Yeah, we need to varnish that, but we'll do it all in one go. Okay, right. So 10 turns of good, great big stuff. So yeah, let's just make that happen. I'm just going to use some ordinary insulated wire for this job. I'm not going to bother with, you know, enamelled stuff or anything. I choose ordinary hookup wire. It'll be fine. If you were concerned about the voltage, which you should be, you can use a I've seen people use either coax, the inside of a piece of RG58 or something, or EHT cable. It's only a few turns, so yeah, why would you be too concerned about it? So I'm just going to make a real mess of that because that's just all unwound. Is that solid stuff? I think it probably is actually. That might not be ideal for our task. Let me just wind that back up. Yeah, it is solid. Look, it's only 10 turns. We should be able to cope. So I am opposite my lead out winding because obviously we don't want this on that side. We want it smack bang in the middle. We might not use it. I might go semiconductor yet. This the whole damn thing might not even work, might it? So I am semi-confident in it, I think. Right. I wonder if I do actually take that spool off and put that on there. It'll just make the job a bit easier. Let's do that. Alright, we'll have a piece of Kapton tape just to hold that start of that winding in place. Reset the counter. I really need it for this. Oh, better take the tape off. And we're away. Another bit of Kapton across there, just hold it in place. Not very neat. Finished. Does it still fit inside the EHT overwind? Gosh, it does. Amazing. Right. All I need to do now is just trim back this excess insulation and get it reassembled into the laminations, which is actually going to mean I need to stop, one, for a cup of tea, and two, to have a look at the footage of when I took the damn thing apart, so I know where all the windings go. Right. So the next thing I actually want to do is do something to protect our EHT overwind from other damage. So what I'm going to do is I did buy some of this stuff. This is 4226A MG Chemicals clear insulated varnish. It comes in a bottle. It doesn't look very viscous, which is a good thing. But I knew somewhere I had a can of RS's anti-corona lacquer. You can't buy this anymore. It's probably nasty and gives you cancer or something, I don't know. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to paint the EHT overwinding with this stuff, hopefully taking place of our pitch. It's going to want a few coats. In fact, what I might want to do is suspend it so I can get all of it. Oh, I know what's good for that. Why not just reutilize our very useful coil winder? Yeah, that'll be just the job, won't it? Okay, let's give this a paint then. I've used this with great success on TV22 transformers, etc. So it is quality schmutter. Somebody will probably tell me it's just an ordinary polyester varnish or something, I don't know. Right, I'm just going to leave that to sit for 20 minutes and give it another coat. Right, a few days later I've been spraying this with that lacquer, and then that lacquer ran out. So I've switched to the MG Chemicals stuff. You'll notice a power supply is hooked up. There's just a couple of watts going through there, which is enough to make this ever so slightly warm. And I just want to, I'm fairly happy with how the outer edge is now. I had it on that horizontal thing hanging. I just want to get some in that sort of this surface here. So I've just been, I think this is a second coat of this stuff it's had. So we just want to get in there and give that a coat. It's nice that it's slightly warm because the weather has finally turned. It appears autumn is upon us. And yeah, so just going to paint that up. Smells of pear drops, this stuff. Anyway, that's got another coat on there. And I've got to turn that over and repeat for the other side. But the other thing I want to do is I want to dip our primary winding as well. So for that, sadly, I haven't got any transformer varnish, so I'm going to use this interior gloss varnish, which is a polyurethane varnish. That's the important bit, is not to get one that's water-based. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of suspend this. I'm going to take the wires up so they're not immersed, and then just dunk the rest of it. I'm not worried about the EHT winding wires so much, they can get immersed. But yeah, we just want to sort of organise that so I can dip that down into the varnish, let it soak. What I'd ideally like to do is put a vacuum on it, but I can't engineer that, sadly. So we'll have to go with naturally aspirated, so to speak. So I guess I could do it on here actually. That's probably the best bet. I'm going to want a bit of wire just to suspend it. I've had great success using this in the past, so I've got no problem with using it again. If you open the can of varnish and you've got the wrong stuff, by the way, it tends to look and smell like Bailey's Irish cream. That's not the sort of stuff you want. And in that goes. I'm going to leave that in there for, I don't know, a couple of hours, I should think, just to get a good coat, then bring it out, allow it to dry. This stainless steel rod has been most useful. Don't fall in. Right, you can see the bubbles coming out of there already, so the varnish is sort of making its way into all the gaps inside the winding. I think I'm going to go and get a bit of cling film and just stick it over the top of that. There, let's leave that for a while. Right, that's been in there for a while now. I can't see any more bubbles coming out, so I'm going to remove it. And hang it up to dry. That should do nicely. Appear to have lost a little bit of our tape there. I shall deal with that later on.
1 week later.
Okay, it's now several days later, and it's had 4-hour soaks in this, followed by drying in between each coat. So it now sort of looks like that. It's gone very hard, so I'm just going to trim off some of this excess towards the top here, because I don't think it's going to clear the laminations. So yeah, I just want to get a set of cutters in there and trim that back. So let's just do that. I'll make sure I'm not going to endanger any of the windings, but I think we're all right. It's got to come off anyway, because it's not going to fit the laminations as it stands. So that's just that excess insulation that we had previously. Yeah, it's still quite sticky inside there. I think I may just wish to leave that to dry for a little bit longer. One thing I was concerned about is obviously these laminations need to be insulated from one another, but I've measured them with a meter and there doesn't appear to be any connection there, so I think that's good. Yeah, we've got this one sort of errant lamination on the end here. I'm going to not sort of disturb the laminations as much as I possibly can. The other decision I've made is, regrettably, I think I'm not going to use the heater winding, at least to start with. I'm going to put a semiconductor rectifier in there. So just to start with, I can always take it apart and add that in later should I desire. So I'm just going to fit our EHT overwind, and this as well, it sort of rattles about. It is a better fit now, but yeah, I'm just going to go with it and see how it performs. So one thing I've got is that EHT winding is a little bit short, so we may want to deal with that, but let's try and just sort of reassemble this bit and see how we get on. Push the lamination in and then through the centre of the bobbin. Yeah, it's nearly emerged the other side. If I just leave that heater winding, you know, intact, but just don't connect it, I don't think it's going to have any detrimental effect. So that's my plan. Okay. Wow. There it is. And obviously got to work out how these how this all fits together. I think it's like that, isn't it? Yeah, we may need to clamp that down a little. I think we're gonna get there, okay? And then refit the frame. So yeah, I think I am inclined. I need to look at which way round this lot goes, don't I? Okay, especially as these are splaying out slightly. Yeah, let me just stop here and review my previous footage where I took this apart so I can work out which side. I know which side these mounting holes are because it's underneath the chassis, so they've got to go that way round, haven't they? Yeah, I think that's right. Okay, so let's just squeeze that in there. Just need something just to tap that into position with a bit, really. I'm just going to nearly, that needs to go in like that. There we go, and we can get the end pieces in. And we are reassembled. So that's my one half of my EHT winding. The other side goes up to the top cap. So I'm going to need to rotate this inside here, which I think I can do. Which I can do. So one side of our EHT overwinding goes to this connection here, which is the top cap. The other one comes out here. I will connect the heater winding up, but I'm just I don't think I'm going to use it for the time being. Just don't want to stress out that insulation, and if it works all right with the semiconductor rectifier, I think I might leave it there. We shall see. We shall see how we progress. So this is top cap. Then these three wires go down to our bottom here. So I've got to clean the insulation and extra varnish off these wires very carefully because we don't want to have them break. But yeah, that's looking like it's something close. Exciting times. So I don't know what I'm going to do first. I think perhaps I'll try and get these three cleaned off and in position. And pick off this excess blob of varnish here. A bit sticky and horrible. A bit there. And maybe try and clean up something down here. I think that might be a job for the old fiberglass pencil. There's our three bottom connections there. Now I think I've pulled this wire out on the wrong side because this should go to our top cap, which is, where are you, that connector there. So I reckon I've exited the wrong side of the bobbin. Never mind, tis how it is, isn't it? So where do I want to make my connection? I suppose I want to do it sort of down here. I'm going to clean a piece away there. So that needs to come up onto this tag over here. I'm not going to cut it just yet. I'm going to get it into position because also I've got to solder in the top end of the EHT winding, EHT overwind. So yeah. I think I may be a little way out with my length of wire calculations. No, I'm not too bad actually, that's good. So also up in there has got to be the top end of the EHT overwind. Now the The one end of it is down in there. That needs to go to that cap there. So, yeah. Just want to start positioning things. That should go up into there. Right, let's just check to ensure that's soldered. I'm not sure that top cap connection has. I think the EHT wind's pretty good. So we should have some measurement of resistance between the top and bottom of that winding. So, in fact, we'll check them all while we're here. Well, we have a number of ohms there. So what have we got on this one? A number of ohms there. That seems quite low. Worries me. I do have to remake this connection up here. So yeah, let's just clean that button out. Again, a dab of flux in there, and I think we'll spend the money and use some braid. Right, so now I should have some resistance between there and there. Let's just check that. And I do. So, there it is. The rebuilt line output transformer. I need to solder those two on, don't I? Let's do that very quickly. And there you have it, one completed, rewound line output transformer. But will it be any good? Well, find out in a future episode of Doz's Television Workshop. Until then, click like, subscribe, do all that rubbish, and I'll see you really soon here on Doz's Television Workshop. Cheers now, bye.
With a gentle hand, he brings them back in line. Every twist and turn makes the magic shine. Cathodes and the crackle of the tubes amidst the dust. They play nostalgic tunes. Solder smoke and the faint aroma of time in each repair. An art that's so prime. Twist and spark, fix the picture, bring back color in the dark. Screens that buzz, it's magic on display. Old TVs revived in a brand new way. Circuit woes, but we're getting closer. Neon signs, they guide you to the door. Tubes and screens like you've never seen before. Pulses hum as sparks begin to fly. In this tiny shop, dreams are set too high. In Nazi shop, with a touch of love, your picture's clear and true. In Doz's hands, pixels flicker back to life and stand. Microchips and vintage heart in a world of screens playing their parts. Circuit boards with stories to untangle. Every wire a promise as an angle. With steady hands, as Dozzy bends the light through the lens, creating onyx nights. Oscillators creating sonic waves, bringing back the charm of retro days. Capacitors and resistors. In Dozzy's touch, there's no misfire. Transistors dance to the rhythm of repair. Through the glow, feels like magic fills the air. Voltage pulses, the tune's melodic run. A symphony of sparks where the work is never done. In